researcher Bryce Johnson has received a strange photograph of a human-like hand with claws.
He goes on to say, I threw it back into the woods, but it wasn't until then that I realized what I may have had in my possession.
Before the cameras stopped rolling, Bryce Johnson discovered a truth far darker than anything hiding in the woods. His sudden exit from Bigfoot Expedition wasn't a choice. It was survival. Now he finally reveals the terrifying forces that silenced him and the secret they tried to erase. The silent disappearance. The new season premiere of Bigfoot Expedition arrived with an unsettling absence that viewers immediately noticed but couldn't quite understand. Bryce Johnson, the face of Expedition Bigfoot for multiple seasons, simply wasn't there. The opening credits rolled without his familiar presence, and the promotional materials circulating across social media platforms contained no trace of his previous involvement. Network executives offered no explanation, no farewell tribute, no acknowledgement whatsoever of the sudden departure. The silence felt orchestrated, deliberate, and profoundly wrong. Fans flooded comment sections with questions that went systematically unanswered. Production companies deleted inquiries faster than moderators could reasonably manage them. The remaining cast members posted carefully worded statements on their social channels, always referring to Bryce in the past tense, as though his time on the show belonged to a distant era rather than just months earlier. The behavior patterns among crew members revealed even stranger inconsistencies. Behind-the-scenes footage showed empty spaces where Bryce would have naturally appeared. Camera angles seemed deliberately adjusted to avoid locations he once occupied. Industry insiders who worked closely with production whispered about non-disclosure agreements signed under unusual circumstances. Legal documents appeared overnight, requiring signatures before filming could continue. The language within these contracts contained clauses about operational security and information containment that had nothing to do with standard entertainment industry practices. Lawyers who reviewed the paperwork expressed confusion about terminology typically reserved for government contractors and classified research facilities. The absence felt intentional, calculated, and disturbingly thorough. Someone with significant resources and authority wanted Bryce Johnson removed, not just from the show, but from public consciousness entirely. The question nobody dared ask publicly was why. But the real mystery wasn't just his disappearance. It was what he found in the weeks before vanishing, discoveries that would make any rational person question everything they thought they knew about the wilderness. Forbidden discoveries. The evidence Bryce collected during his final expeditions defied conventional scientific explanation. Thermal imaging equipment captured silhouettes moving through dense forest with biomechanical patterns that matched no known species in zoological databases. The figures displayed temperature signatures inconsistent with typical mammalian physiology, alternating between heat concentrations that suggested intelligent thermoregulation rather than instinctive behavior. Movement analysis revealed gait mechanics that combined bipedal locomotion with power efficiency no human athlete could replicate. Laboratory analysis of organic samples yielded results that disturbed every specialist who examined them. Protein markers within tissue fragments showed structural compositions that existed outside established classification systems. The molecular arrangements suggested evolutionary pathways that branched from known biological trees at impossible points in genetic history. DNA sequencing produced partial matches to multiple species simultaneously, creating genetic profiles that statistical models classified as contamination despite rigorous collection protocols. Audio recordings captured vocalizations that contained structural patterns resembling communication rather than random animal sounds. Frequency analysis revealed ultrasonic components organized into repetitive sequences with mathematical precision. Linguistic experts who reviewed the recordings identified phonetic structures similar to proto-languages, syllabic arrangements that suggested intentional information transfer. The sounds existed at ranges beyond normal human hearing, requiring specialized equipment to detect and analyze properly. Bryce meticulously documented everything through private channels that bypassed normal production workflows. His personal research database contained thousands of data points never intended for broadcast television. Geographic coordinates marked locations where anomalous activity concentrated, creating patterns that suggested territorial boundaries and migration routes. Time-stamped observations revealed behavioral consistency across multiple expeditions, evidence of something organized and deliberate rather than random wildlife encounters. The attention his research attracted came from sources completely unconnected to entertainment production. Unmarked vehicles appeared near research sites following particularly productive expeditions. Electronic surveillance equipment detected signals, monitoring his communication devices and data transfers. Technical analysis revealed sophisticated tracking software embedded in his field equipment, code signatures that matched government cybersecurity protocols rather than commercial spyware. Physical samples disappeared from secure storage facilities under circumstances that defied explanation. Laboratory technicians arrived for scheduled analysis sessions to find containers empty despite intact security seals and continuous video monitoring. Digital backups corrupted simultaneously across geographically separated servers, suggesting coordinated interference rather than random technical failure. Evidence collection logs showed access timestamps from IP addresses traced to government network infrastructure. Official explanations classified missing materials under biohazard protocols requiring specialized clearance levels. Masked operatives in unmarked hazmat suits conducted retrieval operations without identifying their agency affiliation or legal authority. Documentation stamped with classification codes appeared on chain of custody forms, bureaucratic language typically reserved for national security operations rather than wildlife research programs. Bryce realized his investigations had crossed invisible boundaries into territory someone powerful wanted kept hidden. The evidence he collected represented something far more significant than cryptozoological curiosity. The surveillance escalated dramatically after one specific incident involving a vulnerable researcher and a public defense that caught the attention of forces operating far beyond television production oversight. Warnings from the shadows. The incident began innocuously during a conference panel discussion about unconventional research methodologies. A young autistic researcher presented findings about pattern recognition in wilderness audio recordings, data analysis that challenged mainstream scientific dismissal of anomalous phenomena. Academic attendees responded with condescending skepticism that bordered on personal attack, questioning not just the research, but the investigator's cognitive capacity to interpret complex data properly. Bryce intervened publicly, defending the researcher's methodology and intellectual rigor. His support came from genuine respect for innovative thinking rather than political calculation. The researcher's pattern recognition abilities exceeded conventional analytical approaches, identifying correlations that traditional scientific frameworks missed entirely. The defense seemed like simple professional courtesy, an experienced investigator standing up for rigorous work being dismissed for ideological reasons. Within hours, digital monitoring of Bryce's online presence intensified dramatically. Social media posts about the incident disappeared from platform feeds despite normal engagement patterns. Forum discussions containing his comments vanished from search engine caches, leaving broken links where conversations previously existed. Automated content moderation systems flagged references to the conference panel as violating community guidelines that nobody could specifically identify. Anonymous messages began appearing through encrypted channels Bryce used for sensitive research communication. The messages contained specific details about his private investigations that should have remained completely confidential. Reference numbers for laboratory analysis reports he never shared publicly. Geographic coordinates for research sites known only to his personal documentation. Timestamps matching private audio log recordings nobody outside his immediate team could access. The language in these messages carried unmistakable authority, professional terminology typically used in intelligence briefings rather than casual threats, warnings framed as friendly advice about career preservation and professional reputation management, suggestions that certain research directions might prove personally disadvantageous without specifying exact consequences. The tone conveyed power, resources, and sophisticated awareness of his activities. The realization emerged gradually but undeniably. He had attracted attention from intelligence systems designed to monitor potential threats to national security interests. The young researcher's pattern recognition methodology, combined with Bryce's public defense, triggered algorithmic classification as persons of interest within automated surveillance networks. Their collaborative potential represented something that warranted active containment rather than passive observation. Bryce understood the danger now. Physical violence remained unlikely given his public profile and media connections, but professional erasure offered equally effective neutralization, reputation destruction through coordinated disinformation campaigns, career sabotage through invisible blacklisting across industry networks, social isolation through algorithmic suppression of his digital presence. The modern machinery of invisibility operated with ruthless efficiency against targets marked for elimination from public discourse. The confirmation of his worst suspicions arrived through an official summons disguised as a routine production meeting, an invitation that would transport him into the heart of a system most Americans never suspected existed. The Black Site encounter. The meeting request arrived through official production channels with language suggesting standard contract negotiations. Legal representatives framed the discussion as addressing intellectual property concerns and future collaboration opportunities. The location specified a nondescript office building in a business district rather than familiar studio facilities. Nothing in the communication triggered obvious alarm, yet instinct warned Bryce that this represented something fundamentally different from normal industry business. The federal liaison introduced himself without providing specific agency affiliation. His credentials displayed government seals but avoided naming particular departments or divisions. He spoke with bureaucratic precision about information management and narrative containment protocols, while offering no context for why entertainment industry contractors required such discussions. The conversation felt like interrogation disguised as professional consultation. Transportation to the research facility occurred under strict non-disclosure protocols. Legal documents contained criminal penalties for unauthorized information disclosure that extended beyond standard confidentiality agreements into national security territory. The journey took hours through increasingly remote terrain, arriving finally at a compound camouflaged as a wildlife research station. Armed security personnel patrolled perimeters while surveillance systems monitored every approach vector with military-grade technology. Interior access required additional security clearance and biometric verification. The facility contained equipment and resources far exceeding anything available to civilian research institutions. Cryo-storage units held organic samples collected across decades, cataloged with classification codes rather than scientific nomenclature. Anonymous tissue specimens preserved under conditions suggesting long-term study rather than temporary storage. The scale of the operation indicated systematic collection efforts spanning generations. Acoustic archives contain thousands of recordings organized by geographic region and temporal patterns. Audio analysis equipment processed vocalizations through algorithms designed to detect communication structures and information content. Pattern recognition software identified linguistic elements that suggested intelligence far beyond animal cognition. Playback sessions revealed sounds Bryce had captured independently, confirming his research had documented phenomena already known to classified government programs. Satellite mapping systems displayed geographic data tracking anomalous activity across wilderness areas throughout North America. Heat signature analysis identified movement patterns consistent with large bipedal organisms avoiding human detection. Migration routes appeared on digital maps showing seasonal movements that suggested territorial behavior and population dynamics. The comprehensive surveillance network demonstrated sophisticated long-term monitoring infrastructure. Psychological containment studies examined public belief systems and information management strategies. Research documentation analyzed how folklore narratives influenced population behavior and cultural stability. The files revealed deliberate programs designed to maintain specific levels of public awareness, enough to explain occasional encounters, but insufficient to trigger widespread panic or demand for government transparency. Bryce realized the suppressed knowledge wasn't theoretical speculation. The evidence existed, documented extensively, studied systematically. The question wasn't whether cryptid phenomena represented real biological entities. The question was why such powerful interests invested enormous resources in keeping that knowledge hidden from public awareness. The officials presented Bryce with an offer that would determine not just his career trajectory, but his entire future relationship with truth, freedom, and personal integrity. The containment offer. The proposal came wrapped in professional language designed to sound like opportunity rather than coercion. Officials outlined a containment participation contract that would position Bryce as a controlled public voice within cryptozoological media. He would return to television with enhanced resources, expanded research access, and institutional support unavailable to independent investigators. Production budgets would increase substantially, allowing for sophisticated expeditions and cutting-edge technology deployment. The conditions revealed themselves gradually through dense legal language and euphemistic phrasing. Research directions would require pre-approval through unnamed oversight committees. Discoveries would undergo classification review before public disclosure. Narrative frameworks would align with established folklore management protocols designed to maintain specific public perception boundaries. Editorial control would shift from creative teams to intelligence liaisons embedded within production infrastructure. Essentially, Bryce would become a propaganda instrument. His credibility and public profile would legitimize carefully curated information designed to shape public understanding without revealing actual truth. The role offered financial security, professional prestige, and continued relevance within his field. The cost was intellectual honesty, personal integrity, and complicity in systematic deception of audiences who trusted him. Refusal carried consequences explained with bureaucratic precision. Professional exile would occur through invisible mechanisms rather than dramatic confrontation. Industry connections would receive subtle guidance about liability concerns associated with his involvement. Funding sources would discover regulatory complications affecting projects featuring his participation. Media platforms would implement algorithmic adjustments, reducing his content visibility and audience reach. The warning came with chilling clarity. His silence wouldn't result from legal prosecution or physical intimidation. It would emerge organically through coordinated institutional pressure that left no fingerprints, no evidence of conspiracy, no targets for resistance. He would simply become irrelevant, disconnected, forgotten, erased from public discourse through thousands of small decisions made by people who never directly encountered instructions to exclude him. Bryce declined without hesitation, despite understanding the implications completely. His research existed for truth discovery, not narrative management. His audience deserved honest investigation, not theatrical performance designed to reinforce predetermined conclusions. The cost of integrity meant accepting obscurity, but compromise meant losing everything that made his work meaningful. The transition happened exactly as predicted. Production companies stopped returning calls despite previously enthusiastic collaboration. Scheduled appearances canceled with vague explanations about format changes and programming adjustments. Social media engagement plummeted as algorithmic recommendation systems stopped suggesting his content to interested audiences. Search engine results buried his work beneath newer creators producing material aligned with preferred narratives. Merchandise featuring his image disappeared from official retail channels. Streaming platforms edited his presence, from archived episodes through digital manipulation technology. Promotional materials received retroactive modification, replacing his contributions with generic footage that erased evidence of his involvement. The systematic removal operated with coordinated precision that confirmed centralized direction rather than independent business decisions. Bryce started contingency protocols developed during months of escalating surveillance. Research documentation moved to encrypted storage systems distributed across multiple secure locations. Physical evidence transferred to trusted collaborators operating outside institutional oversight. Deadman switches activated automatic information release if he disappeared completely or lost communication capacity for extended periods. The archives contained everything: laboratory analysis reports, audio recordings, photographic evidence, geographic coordinates, witness testimonies, and documentation proving government knowledge of cryptid phenomena. The information remained hidden but accessible, waiting for circumstances that would allow safe public disclosure without triggering the full force of institutional suppression. His final public statement addressed none of the controversy directly. He simply announced retirement from television production to pursue private research initiatives. The message thanked audiences for their support while avoiding any explanation for the abrupt career transition. Those who understood the subtext recognized the coded farewell, acknowledgement that his silence resulted from external pressure rather than personal choice. But disappearance from mainstream media didn't mean surrender. It marked the beginning of a different kind of investigation, one conducted entirely outside the systems designed to control information and suppress uncomfortable truths. The hidden legacy. Public visibility ended, but private research intensified through networks operating completely outside mainstream institutional oversight. Bryce connected with independent investigators, amateur researchers, and credentialed scientists frustrated by academic censorship of unconventional phenomena. The decentralized collaboration network avoided centralized infrastructure vulnerable to surveillance and disruption. Communication occurred through encrypted channels, using security protocols designed for high-risk whistleblower protection. Research methodology shifted from broadcast entertainment toward rigorous scientific investigation conducted without institutional constraints. Field expeditions deployed sophisticated monitoring equipment funded through anonymous donors and cryptocurrency contributions. Data collection followed academic standards while avoiding submission to journals controlled by establishment gatekeepers. Evidence accumulated, steadily, documented meticulously, analyzed thoroughly, and shared exclusively within trusted researcher communities. The network discovered patterns that government programs had apparently identified decades earlier. Migration routes corresponded with protected wilderness areas established through federal land acquisition. Encounter frequency correlated with geological features suggesting subterranean habitat systems. Genetic analysis revealed population diversity indicating established breeding communities rather than isolated individuals. The evidence suggested not just occasional cryptid sightings, but sustained populations existing in deliberate concealment. Behavioral observations indicated intelligence far exceeding primate cognition. Tool use appeared in photographic evidence showing modified vegetation and constructed shelters. Communication complexity suggested language capacity with grammatical structure and symbolic representation. Social organization demonstrated hierarchical relationships and collaborative problem-solving abilities. The discoveries pointed toward a hidden species possessing cognitive abilities, approaching or potentially exceeding human intellect. Government suppression made increasing sense within this context. Acknowledgement of such entities would trigger unprecedented legal, ethical, and philosophical questions. Property rights and environmental regulations would face challenges from competing claims to territorial sovereignty. Religious institutions would confront theological implications about creation narratives and human uniqueness. Scientific establishments would require fundamental revision of evolutionary models and species classification systems. The social disruption potential explained massive resource investment in information containment. Revealing cryptid existence as intelligent species rather than undiscovered animals would destabilize foundational assumptions underlying modern civilization. Legal systems, property ownership, environmental management, and human self-conception would all require radical reconsideration. The institutional resistance stemmed from justified concern about societal chaos rather than simple cover-up mentality. Bryce's encrypted archives contained comprehensive documentation supporting these conclusions. Laboratory reports verified biological evidence authenticity. Audio analysis confirmed communication sophistication. Geographic mapping revealed population distribution patterns. Witness testimonies provided behavioral observations across decades and diverse locations. The compiled evidence would withstand rigorous scientific scrutiny if ever released to peer review. But release timing mattered critically. Premature disclosure would trigger suppression mechanisms perfected through decades of practice. Information would face systematic debunking through coordinated media campaigns. Evidence would disappear through legal seizure and classification protocols. Researchers would experience professional destruction through reputation attacks and career sabotage. The machinery of denial would activate with overwhelming force. The strategy required patience and preparation. Evidence distribution across multiple secure locations prevented complete suppression. Encrypted archives protected data integrity against digital manipulation. Trusted collaborators maintained independent verification capability. Dead man protocols ensured information survival beyond individual researcher lifespans. The network prepared for generational commitment to eventual truth disclosure. Bryce understood he might never witness public acknowledgement of his discoveries. The work transcended personal recognition or career validation. Truth existed independent of institutional acceptance or mainstream awareness. His role involved preservation and protection of evidence until circumstances allowed safe revelation without triggering catastrophic suppression. The final encrypted message contained simple declarative statements. Cryptid phenomena represented biological reality rather than folklore fantasy. Government programs possessed comprehensive documentation spanning decades. Institutional suppression served strategic purposes beyond simple denial. Evidence existed proving intelligent species sharing territory with human civilization. Public disclosure awaited conditions preventing successful suppression and social destabilization. The closing words carried weight, accumulated through years of investigation, surveillance, confrontation, and exile. They represented acknowledgement of uncomfortable truth that challenged fundamental assumptions about humanity's place in the natural world. They expressed hope that future generations might possess wisdom and maturity to handle revelations current institutions deemed too dangerous for public knowledge. We are not alone, but someone decided you aren't ready. The statement lingered in digital darkness, encrypted and distributed, waiting patiently for a world capable of confronting truth without collapsing into chaos. The hidden legacy endured beyond individual careers, institutional pressures, and governmental power. Evidence remained, protected and preserved, representing humanity's eventual inheritance when collective consciousness evolved sufficiently to accept reality beyond comfortable illusions.